fire is eternal, not the sinner's soul within it. And he put that here. That's from Matthew 25:41. So when we see this baptism by fire, now, and here's why this kind of coincides with the Gehenna, right? We started this podcast and we opened up with, what does a baptism do? Do you remember our answer? We had two answers.
That it purifies.
It purifies. It cleanses you. So the modern Jewish understanding is that you stay in Gehenna for no longer than 11 months. Excuse me. And it's a cleansing process. So you can either be baptized by the Spirit and get entrance into the paradise immediately, or you get baptized by fire. And the idea is you still get entrance into the Olam Haba, but you had to go through a cleansing process to get there. And instead of the water cleansing, it's the fire cleansing. It's sort of this warning. And so that's the more modern Jewish understanding of the way that it works. I don't believe modern Judaism is a nihilist. I think it's sort of that everyone just goes through a cleansing process. And depending on how, like, if you were a believer in God and you were a good person, your cleansing process is like that. But if you weren't, then your cleansing process takes longer, for no more than 11 months. I've also heard it said that 11 months feels like an eternity to you because it's a long time.
Right.
So there's a case that can be made that it really is like a really, really long time. But in our timeline, in our dimension, it's only like 11 months. But from their dimension, it just feels like it never stops.
And this is something, and I understand exactly why there was thought that this might fit into the Better Call Paul, right? Because 1 Corinthians 3:15 specifically says, if anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet as though through fire. So right, there's specific mention, and I've heard a number of pastors actually preach sermons on this, right? That there will be those who get into heaven, but like only barely, like they could still feel the flames and smell the smoke of hell, right? Like is the way that's preached, and it's like, all right, now do they still feel the flames and smell the smoke because like it was right on their heels? Because that doesn't make sense. It would make sense if they had to experience it, and that's why they understand the feeling of the flames and the smell of the smoke, right?
Yeah. So, and the point we're kind of trying to make is that like the modern Jewish view is actually fairly, if you read Yeshua in his words within this context, they make sense. They still resonate with the modern Jewish understanding of the way that it works. It's worded very, very similarly. It's one of those, like, if you take a red letter Bible, you can basically find every word that Jesus speaks somewhere in the Talmud. But I mean, yeah, it's you know who told me that? Actually, a rabbi told me that, who is not a believer. He was the one who told me that. But yeah, so you know. This is one of those things that might kind of be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of Christians, because Christians love talking about the afterlife. They love the idea of an eternal hell and torment that has gotten people to believe the gospel for centuries. It's a tried and true method for, in some cases. But really, and it doesn't sound bad. The soul's totally annihilated. Okay, well, I won't be around to remember it, so I don't care if I suffer. Again, in the ancient mindset, this is the worst case scenario, to have no portion in the world to come, to just cease to exist and not eat at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and Yeshua, and just stop existing. Like, that is the absolute worst case scenario. So that is a threat. That's a very valid threat, in fact. So yeah,